I don't know what it looks like across the finish line. I'm so excited for next week, and like obviously, like the debacle, I've stopped following it, so I'm not spun up on like the whole Trump getting sued, him getting pulled. Like I know he's, it's going to Supreme Court to try to pull him off the ballots in states, but like him not being able to participate in the Super Tuesday because they're trying to have him in court. Like I don't know where we are with that. I just saw like that was like the last ditch effort, but I thought that was super fascinating.
Well, there is a very, very local story that I had at the ready, but I'll just bring it up real quick. Because the Colorado case is working its way up to the Supreme Court right now, there's been no stays on it. There's no nothing. So they've set a precedent at this point that you can quote, or, you can rely on the 14th Amendment argument and say that he was a part of an insurrection. He's an insurrectionist, and that allows you to pull him off the ballot. That was Colorado's case. Maine essentially did the same thing. There's a petition in Kitsap County right now that it's working its way up through the court system to pull Trump off the ballot in Washington State.
Get the fuck out of here.
It started here. Yeah,
I hate it.
They just started the process last week, and so it'll be going through the court systems over the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
And until the Supreme Court hears that, makes the decision, or puts a stay on it, it's going to keep happening throughout the country.
So let's talk about this for a minute, right? Because I'm struggling, like many people, I think, struggling to understand this, okay? Yes. So he has a case. I have an article here that goes over like all the different cases that he has, right? And so one of them is for this insurrection thing, right? It's this January 6th case. Mm-hmm. If this is still going on, though, so if he hasn't been found guilty of treason or insurrection, like any of these things that are cited in the 14th Amendment, I don't understand how he can be removed from a ballot. So let me give you a list of general questions that are going to start this conversation, yes. Right? Because that's really I don't expect an actual answer from you, but these are the good rhetorical questions that many people around the country are asking, right?
Indeed.
How can he be removed for something he hasn't been found guilty of, right? Let's get a little bit bigger picture.
Or technically charged with.
Exactly. That's it. Precisely, because the charges in this Jan 6 case are 4 counts: conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights in his relentless pursuit to reverse the outcome of the 2020 election, because it's a civil rights thing, like trying to fuck over people's votes. So, bigger picture than that, how can anybody continue to claim that this is a free and fair election if the candidate that the people want is not on the ballot, right? If he's not even allowed to be on the ballot, let alone be voted for, how can this be a free and fair election if people want him to be there? Because if he were to be in the primaries, we all know how we feel about polls, right? But all the polls indicate that he would come in first, if not second, in all of these different primaries. He would definitely be on the ballot. I don't understand how at the end of the day we can claim that this is a free and fair election 2024 if we aren't allowing the candidate that people want on the ballot. Further than that, I had one more. No, that's it.
Start with that.
I thought I had another big one. I'm
Larry,
really good at hosting this show.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's my big thing. Is it just like, again, we're violating a little bit of his rights as an American, right? And like it just seems like there's so many things have been layered on, and then we've had so many situations where like the action has been treated, right? So you have the document thing where they're like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, like this should disqualify him. Then Hunter Biden got caught up in it. Then Obama got caught up in it. There's like, okay, a lot of presidents have been really loose around how they've handled documentation. So like that kind of fell to the wayside. Then it was just like, okay, well, his family's like, one of the big things when he was working there was like the nepotism he had with his family. It was just like,
right.
Well, his family's too close. Then this whole Joe Biden escapade with Hunter. Now everyone's just like unfairly chasing a person that just seemed to be throwing his dad's name around whenever obfuscating around people that could be construed as not always friendly to America, right? That's the nicest way I could say it. And then we have like this where crimes have not been levied, but like everybody's now saying, well, okay, because of these lines of things, which we have had happen that have not been treated the same, he's going to be, or he can't be included. And everyone's like, okay, this loose impeachment where he wasn't impeached, but technically the House voted for it, right? So it's like because of that, like we can't do like at every step of the way, because we are jumping ahead of the process, it looks unfair. Like it's hard after everything for us to like deem it fair. Because then like what's to stop it? Like what's to stop Wyoming for being like Joe Biden has not been like because of like these a random allegation, right? There's tons that we could use. We're not going to include Joe Biden on the ballot. What's
Right.
to stop that? There is no like, and so now it's just turning into like a mockery of the process. Like we used to have a delineated process. Bill Clinton got a special favor from one of his people, and everybody was just like, we hate it, but like, let's just get him out of the office and let's move on, right? Like we literally saw he committed adultery in the Oval Office, right? Like that's
favors.
where we were, but like we're able to just like not move past it, but allow the process to play out. But now we're just like we're refusing to let a process play out, and everybody's just getting super emotional. Where it should be cut and dry. Like they pulled him off for something they didn't do. The only question that matters is did the act happen? Like the fact that we haven't asked that is just like you can't tell me it's not politics anymore.
Right. The January 6th thing is not as cut and dry as it is presented, in corporate media.
And you could try to present that, but the fact remains like he has to stay in court. Like
Yeah.
even if it was cut and dry, and we had a video of him just telling like he was in there painted up on his face, and he said, "Follow me" with a big sword. The fact remains it has not been delegated. Like you could say that he instigated it, sure. You could say that it's his fault that it happened. All those things are I could see how you would get there, but the fact remains, as an American citizen, he gets to stay in court. The judge, that process of court decides. And so until that's run, we can't make any delineation because that's the same thing. And this is why you've seen, again, all right, not to make this race driven, but a lot of black people have been coming around like, whoa, this is what they've been doing to black people for ages.
Right.
Sprinkling, like Dave Chappelle has a skit, sprinkle some crack on him and let's get out of here. Because then he doesn't have to stay in court. And then they just shove it out in the process. The only difference, and a lot of people are like, okay, this is looking weird, is that he has enough fame that it's just being seen. But like the same game has been done, right? Like where it's just like, let's plan it and get out of here. And now you can't with him as a figure because like you have people like you guys and other YouTubers breaking down every step of the way. And so we now handle to the conclusion where I don't care how you feel, I don't care where it would be if he is found guilty. He has not been found guilty, period. Right? So it's unconstitutional. There is no reason to pull him off. And so like I get passionate about it because like again, it's kind of like the COVID vaccination. Take it or don't take it, don't give a fuck. But to force someone to lose bodily autonomy, that's a weird slippery slope that we have to identify.
Right.
Like we and like you can, and every time we get to this thing, they relate it to this like super grave thing. Have you noticed that like everything that happens, it's not like an isolated event. It's like this is for the health of the world, or this is for global warming. Because once you tie to that big thing, well, now you can do these things, and like we're just again, it's gonna happen. Like cars will be shut off. Like things will be done, and like again, they tie it to the gun thing, right? Well, this epidemic of gun violence is a reason that we should take your guns away. Like, whoa, okay, pause. Like, what is the gun violence, right? And then they're going to skip over and weave the story to not include any of the gun violence in inner cities, but the school shootings when the numbers, like, sure, the events are smaller, but the numbers are equitable, right? So if we're not going to approach that in the same way, I don't want to hear it. Don't come for my guns. This is an ingenuous thing. But like they tie it to an epidemic, this crazy epidemic, and then they come for the rights. But what did I see on the other side? I saw small businesses go down, and like all these people change their entire lives, and then the rich got richer. These epidemics, right? Even though we saw it, the rules for thee, but or for thee, not me, right? Like the rich constantly, for example, on private airplanes. I now know this. Do you know the mask mandates on private airplanes?
No.
There were none.
There you go.
There were because
Private
you
company.
could control it, right? But like it was in that space. It's just a frustrating process, right? And I don't want to get off tangent because I know I'm known to do that. But like the frustrating thing is because of this great evil that he is, right? Because again, right, what people are like, he's gonna be a dictator. He's not gonna let the next person get elected. We're just like, do you know how many leaps and bounds we just took here? How many extrapolations? Like he could, like, there's a world where he loses, right? Like just like people come out and like in a fair election, pause, where everything's above board. Like he loses and he's not there, but like we've extrapolated out like this guy's gonna come in, turn into a dictator, never give anything back. He's going to then ostracize all these random populations of people that he didn't in his last, but he's like, now he's going to do it because he's the automatic ruler. And like, everyone's going to go with him. And then we're just going to overthrow. Like, I was just like, how do we get here from the man hasn't committed a crime, so he belongs on the ballot?
Right.
Dude, it's so funny
as
because
crazy as been, he's always been somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and it's exactly what they said when he was president last time.
Yeah.
It's like he's going to be a dictator. Like a month after he got elected, that was the narrative. This is the way it's going to go. And then Joe Biden became president. But to give my 2 cents.
I'm sorry, they're already hitting him for saying like that he's not going to he may not respect the election results. Well, if he's not on all of the ballots, of course he's not going to say he respects the election results because he didn't get a fair shot at even winning the election because he wasn't allowed to be on all of the ballots. So regardless of however they're trying to extrapolate that or make it bigger, that's of course that he would say that. And I know it's not exactly what he's saying, but he's saying that this is not fair because I was only on fucking 46 of these. So like that, So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, one of the things I wanted to make sure to point out is when it comes to that Colorado case, right? The reason why there's more states trying to take him off the ballot now is because even though he wasn't charged and convicted for being an insurrectionist, the court system, the federal court system, whatever one runs out of Colorado, whatever district it is, has already by de facto called him an insurrectionist because they've already passed the case has already been done, and now it's moved. it's in the appeals process and moving on.
Because
so the judicial system has already
okay.
decided that you don't have to be tried and convicted of being an insurrectionist to be one.
On a federal level, for us to use a federal statute to pull you off of a federal fucking ballot.
To get a case with the Supreme Court, it has to go through the lower federal courts.
Right.
So this has already been done.
Right.
Like the federal court system, in some capacity, has already called him an insurrectionist
In Colorado.
In Colorado.
I'm an insurrectionist in Colorado.
Yeah. And that's like the scary thing is that the justice system, quote unquote, has already fucking failed.
Right.
To the south of the streets.